in retrospect, is that message, at least in part, to blame for how rapidly the virus has spread across the city?
Jake, we should not be focusing, in my view, on anything looking back on any level of government right now. This is just about how we save lives going forward. We all were working. Everybody was working with the information we had and trying, of course, to avoid panic. And at that point, for all of us, trying to keep, not only protect lives, but keep the economy and the livelihoods together, keep ensuring that people had money to pay for food and medicine. I mean, this was a very different world just a short time ago. But the bottom line is, none of us have time to look backwards. I'm trying to figure out how we get through to Sunday, next Sunday, and then what we do the week after that.
There's some truth to this. But looking backward right now, I mean, obviously de Blasio is particularly vulnerable to that because of the stuff that he was saying that I played for you before. But we are now all trying to just focus on what is ahead of us and how we can move forward, how we can do everything possible to make the best decisions we can in the days ahead as a country, as a nation, as a city, as a state, everything, all across the board. And it is a very different world right now. I mean, there were people who were talking even a couple of weeks ago who were looking at models, and some people were saying we could have 2 million dead, and some people were saying we'll probably have 20 or 30,000, something like that, which would be similar to a bad flu season. It seems like right now, or actually that's just a pretty standard flu season. It seems right now like we're gearing up for. I mean, the president yesterday claimed that anything under 100,000 dead from this would mean that the administration had done a good job. That's a shift in thinking. And for a lot of us, the calculation about how quickly to get back to work versus, at least some of us get back to work with enhanced precautions in place versus the possibility of additional infection, the pendulum has swung in the other direction right now. And we are in maximum defense mode against the virus, and the economy is just being put on hold. So I want to tell you what it was like this weekend for me here in the city. I mean, on the one hand, I have time for cooking, which I will say was nice. I'll maybe get into that a little bit later. I'll tell producer Mark about some of my cooking exploits. But I went for a walk with the dog. And just for those of you who are worried or saying, why aren't you in quarantine? I mean, I am in quarantine. I go out by myself with the dog, and I can walk around my neighborhood. I don't see anybody, really. There's nobody out on the streets. It's empty. I posted a photo that I took on 6th Avenue facing south here in New York City. And that photo just shows you that not only are there very few people on the street in the most crowded, what's usually the most crowded part of Manhattan, which is the most densely populated part of the 5 boroughs, as far as I understand it, at least during working hours. And there were no cars. I've never seen that before in my life, where there were just no cars. And if there's anything that was close to it, maybe it would have been, during a period of incredibly heavy snow. And the thing about snow is we know it's going to melt and we're going to be okay. This is orders of magnitude more concerning. This is exponentially more concerning than, honestly, any of the natural disasters that we've had hitting New York City, at least in my lifetime, including Hurricane Sandy. So I walked around the streets, and there's an eerie feeling for sure because there's no people, there's no businesses open. You are very aware here that this is a city. The city is sick. I mean, it feels like the city is in lockdown, like it's in some kind of hospital ward as a city. And I spoke last week to a doctor friend of mine at one of the hospitals here, and he told me about the situation. He said it is really bad. There's that photo going around at a Brooklyn hospital. Brooklyn and Queens have been hit the worst so far, but there's a photo going around of bodies being put into the back of a refrigerated truck. There are refrigerated trucks outside the major hospitals. That's all very real, folks. Some of you have been asking me, are these things really happening? Yeah, it is happening. Another friend sent me a photo from his window of the field hospital that they've set up in the very fields that I used to play sports on as a kid in school. So the field hospitals are out in the fields of Central Park. There is a field hospital now near Mount Sinai. They've put up big tents, and they're ready for taking patients out there too. I mean, this is where we are. I mean, this is a city that it's like it's preparing for a war, but instead of setting up anti-aircraft guns and putting surface-to-air missiles and sandbags and things like that, we're lining up ventilators and tents and medical personnel. It's a very tough time in the city. People have been asking me about the 9/11 comparison. I think this is now. I wasn't in New York on 9/11. I was up at college. I came back, I think, within a couple of weeks, probably. So I was in the city pretty soon after the 9/11 incident happened. And there was already then, I can say at least, a sense that the city was gonna bounce back. We're gonna be okay. There was still that shock and the loss of all those people that died in the towers and NYPD and FDNY and all the folks who were affected by that. Certainly, that was on everyone's minds. But as a city, there was no sense that the entire city was going to be taken down by this. That the city would never really be the same. At least I don't remember that at all. Right now, you walk around the streets, and every restaurant you pass, everything you see that you go past, you think to yourself, they've closed down or they closed for good. Every store, every restaurant, every business, you walk past and you think, how long before they're not able to ever open their doors? And the answer is going to be a lot of them never do. So that's a different feeling. That's a different place than we've ever been in before as a city. And it's very, very distressing. I'll also say that there's an element here, and maybe this won't be a concern at all. The NYPD, the police department here, has, I think, a few thousand people who are out sick. Now, the department is over. I mean, if you add civilians, it's over 40,000. I think uniformed personnel is in the mid-high 30s. But you got a couple thousand officers who are out sick, and you've had a few hundred officers who have tested positive for coronavirus at this point. And if you look at what's going on the streets at this point in time, it feels like it's desolate and eerie and unsafe too. Cops are not going to deal with the lesser crimes, that's for sure. They've already said in Brooklyn they're not going to prosecute for trespassing, for theft. This is a combustible mix, and no one really is focused right now on the possibility of a breakdown in civil society, but it wouldn't take much. It would not take much. And you walk the streets of New York City, and you have a police force that's already been hit hard by COVID-19. It's going to have more people out in the days ahead. And you just have a general sense of fear. I mean, the city yesterday, it was a wet, cold day. It's a bit soaked in fear. Today's a little bit better. It's a little bit sunnier. And, the warm weather, I think, is really going to help a lot. But I just hope that we're not in a combustible situation where we end up finding ourselves. I just hope we don't end up finding ourselves dealing with problems that are caused by the virus and the lockdown to the virus, but have nothing to do with the virus. And that's where I get worried about the moment you start having shortages. I mean, there are all these stores right now. You can't get toilet paper. You can't get paper towel. We're dealing with real shortages because of panic buying. What happens when you go to the store and there's not food? Now, that doesn't feel like it could happen right now. How many months of this do we think we can sustain? And what happens if there is just from the unemployment and the anger? I mean, people are upset. They're in their homes. They can't leave. If we have some civil disorder, riots essentially on the streets, things get very ugly very quickly here. So, and I don't think that's out of the question. And I've spent a lot of time in this city. I've been through a lot in this city, and there's a sense right now that one push in the wrong direction for us while we're dealing with this, and you could have problems piled on top of it. Now, maybe this is all wrong. Maybe the people understand how serious this is. Everyone's staying home. Everyone's scared by the virus. There's not going to be. You might even see a drop in criminal activity citywide. You probably will right now because there just aren't people out on the streets, and everyone's in their homes. So unless you're going to do a home invasion, a burglary is a very risky thing to do. But I am concerned. That's the best thing I can say. But I did see on the upside. All right, let's get to the upside for a second. I know today's a tough one, folks. It's tough because Trump just extended the 30 days, and it seems the administration has been swayed to, instead of trying to take a more state-by-state and more, economy-friendly or economy-surviving approach to this, they're just like, nope, forget it. We're just doing total lockdown. We're going for the total lockdown approach. So that's been a bit of a shock to process in the last 24 hours. I did see this morning the hospital ship, the USNS Comfort, the Navy's hospital ship. It came right past my window. So I mean, not like I could reach out and touch it, but I could see it from my window as it sailed into New York, went up the Hudson River, and it's at a pier not far from Midtown Manhattan. And it's just encouraging to know that we've got the eyes of the nation on the city right now, and that the Comfort is going to be there to deal with heart attacks, deal with strokes, deal with all the other medical issues that do not stop because we are in our homes and there's a virus out there. So it is encouraging right now to see. It's encouraging right now to see what's going on at least in that respect, from the perspective of trying to have things in place that will help us. And, now I could do the whole dunk on the MSNBC show, Rachel Maddow's show, for saying it will never get here and everything else. But you know what? That's not even important right now. I mean, people are wrong. People are wrong all over the place. I don't know anyone who's understood at every phase of this how to handle it and what to do. And I think maybe, here's a thought, maybe we could, at least for this week, try to extend a little more decency, grace, forgiveness, and understanding to each other, especially as we try to work through this together as a country, than we would on other issues. Maybe we could all aspire to that. And that would certainly be nice. But the Navy ship arrived. You got numerous trials going on right now for drugs that could really be helpful against this. Everyone's focused on chloroquine and Z-Pax, azithromycin, as a possibility. We don't know yet. There's also a drug up in Montreal it's a very inexpensive, very old gout drug, but it deals with inflammation, and it may be useful against this. There's some hope that it'll be useful against the cytokine flood that occurs in the lungs when you are infected with this. So that's certainly a possibility. And then there's also this big drug out of Gilead, Remdesivir, I think it's called, out of Gilead Pharmaceuticals. So those are all possible places where things could get better. Those are all areas where we could see a real reason for particular, for some enthusiasm about this fight, and that we've made a breakthrough. We'll have to see if, in fact, any of them come through. And that would be a game changer. Also, the serology tests. We got to know who's already had this and how many people in the country have already had it. And then they should be cleared to go back to work, assuming they have immunity, which would mean going back to work sooner than later. That would be great. But it's going to be, my friends. Oh, I did. Well, I'll give you some quarantine updates coming up here in a second. But let me just for a moment talk about what's going on with China. China is definitely responsible for much of the pain that we are all feeling. The Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese government, not the Chinese people, but the Chinese Communist Party made decisions that have had ramifications throughout the world. I mean, this is their Chernobyl, but it's much, much worse than Chernobyl. Chernobyl, as we know, once they managed to take, they managed to try to address the problem, it did not turn into the global destruction mechanism that many were concerned it would be. This is Chernobyl if the worst case scenarios actually came true of the initial projection of putting all of that radiation into the air that would spread everywhere else. And the Chinese government is lying about this, has been lying about it at every step. Here's a guy from the World Health Organization, though, who's being asked a question by a journalist, I believe a journalist from Hong Kong, about different countries' responses to this. And the guy's name is Bruce Aylward. He's from the World Health Organization. Just notice how he handles this question. Play 5.
Would the WHO consider Taiwan's membership? Hello?
I'm sorry, I can't hear. I couldn't hear your question.
Okay, yeah. Let me repeat the question.
No, that's okay. Let's move to another one then.
Right, because I'm actually curious on talking about Taiwan as well, on Taiwan's case.
We decided to give Dr. Aylward another call to follow up.
And I just want to see if you can comment a bit on how Taiwan has done so far in terms of containing the virus.
Well, we've already talked about China, and when you look across all the different areas of China, they've actually all done quite a good job. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for inviting us to participate, and good luck as you go forward with the battle in Hong Kong.
We've already talked about China. Wow. World Health Organization representative here is like, no. We do the Chinese bidding on this issue. The Chinese don't recognize Taiwan. We don't recognize Taiwan. We won't even talk about Taiwan. So when people talk about the propaganda situation, when people discuss the reality here of Chinese propaganda being used by Western media, just understand there's also international organizations that succumb to this pressure. There's a story, I'm going to have to get into it tomorrow a little bit because I don't really have time for it today. I want to get to roll call. But there's a story about how did China mess up so badly when it came to dealing with this, because they're supposed to be, they've been preparing for this for a long time. They have in place what were the most robust reporting mechanisms possible. That was what they thought. That was what they were telling everybody, stretching back for over a decade. How could the Chinese government get this so wrong? And the answer is the Chinese government doesn't care about human life. It cares about power. But there's a more complicated, in the weeds version of why the Chinese government messed this up so badly, and I will get into that. But the World Health Organization is also willing to take China's word for it. A lot of these international organizations, one of the problems, whether it's the UN, the WHO, you name it, one of the big issues is that they have this mentality of treating all nations like they're equally decent regimes, like the people that are engaged in, the day-to-day governance are all just like each other. One country is as good as another country. There's the equivalent of moral relativism expanded out through nation states that exists in all these international institutions, and it leads to things like this, where you have China being treated like it's a good guy here by the World Health Organization, and just a refusal to talk about Taiwan, which is an independent country. Right now, Taiwan is an independent country. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and we can't talk about what Taiwan is doing. We're going to just say that it's part of China. That would be news to Taiwan, by the way. So the World Health Organization and some of these other bodies that are supposed to be apolitical and just helping us out with the disease, just remember that all these big international institutions are very political. And the Chinese government is going to not just try to avoid blame for this, they're going to try to capitalize on the situation as much as they can. And look, I start to get worried. What if China recognizes our financial weakness and decides that they can afford, because of their manufacturing base and their access now to raw materials because of the Belt and Road policy? What if they decide to dump U.S. Treasuries to the tune of a few $1 trillion that they own? We'll get into China more tomorrow. I think we'll do more of a deep dive into China and the COVID-19 crisis. Roll call's up next. Roll call. All right, let's get to it. We have, and by the way, I really do appreciate all of you writing in. Now more than ever, it's like my connection to the outside world. So I'm stuck here in quarantine. I feel a little bit like Matt Damon in The Martian, and you guys are my comms back to Earth. So thank you so much for writing in and sharing all your thoughts. All right, let's get to it. Alex, I heard Mark. Hey, Producer Mark, how are you, by the way, buddy? We haven't even checked in with you yet. How's Producer Mark doing?
I'm doing well, Buck. Thank you.
You all right?
Yeah, everything's great here.
So far, so good with you in quarantine, at least? You going to get a goldfish or something, or maybe a plant?
I don't really see how a goldfish or a plant would keep me occupied very long.
Yeah, but, company.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, not really. What is? Are you allergic to dogs?
No, I love dogs.
Oh, you love dogs. Okay.
They're just expensive to be in this apartment building.
Yeah, and plus right now you wouldn't want to be house training a dog, that's for
Exactly.
sure. So you don't want to be outside all the time. I got a dog here. She directs my life right now. Whenever she wants to go out, I got to go out. Whatever she wants is what I got to do. So it's busy.
It's amazing the dog hasn't interrupted the show yet.
She's very quiet.
Yeah.
She's in the room with me all the time. In fact, I will tell you this. She actually sleeps on my feet sometimes as I'm doing the radio show.
At least your feet
are
warm.
Great. She's like a little baby seal warming my feet with her white fur and her blubber. It's great. She's a chubby one.
You're going to make your mom angry for saying that on the radio.
She's going to be so mad at me for saying that, but she knows it's come on. She's a soft, she's a full-figured French bulldog. That is for sure. All right, now Mark is okay, so we're good with that. I heard Mark mention Mitch Rapp. That's one series I like. I was going to recommend it to you. Vince Flynn is the author. Daniel Silva's Gabriel Allon series is good, too. And if you like short podcasts, you should check out The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe. Shields high, good sir. Alex, thank you for all those recommendations. I do appreciate that. And I will say that what I did over the weekend, like everybody else, because I feel like there's this greater sense now more than ever that you want to have some community with people, and you want to be able to talk to them about things you're watching, because I can't see people. I can't experience things with them. I can't go for walks with them or go to dinner with them, or I can't cook dinner for my parents right now, which I like to do sometimes. So watching things and being able to talk about them is fun. I did watch The Tiger King. Mark, did you get to it yet?
No, we were binging a different show this weekend.
What'd you binge over the weekend?
The one about a creek that I can't say the first name of on the air.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you almost done with that one?
We got through 2 seasons just this weekend alone, so we are pretty close to the end, yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. Well, I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are on Tiger King. I thought Tiger King, the first couple of episodes were pretty amazing, very entertaining. Then I think it's 7 episodes in total. Then it kind of got a little too into things. It got a little depressing, and it finished okay. But the first 2 episodes are just mind-boggling. I mean, it's pretty amazing stuff that goes on. So here's the question for you, producer Mark. If you had to have any exotic and dangerous animal, meaning it has to actually prove some threat to your safety, but you got to have it as a pet. So we're talking lions, tigers, bears,
oh my,
king cobras, elephants, hippopotami. What do you go for?
This is a ridiculous question.
There's an entire series just about people that do exactly this.
I mean, I guess lion cubs are kind of cute.
Exactly. That's
Maybe
what most people go for.
Pandas are dangerous.
Panda.
Yeah.
I like that answer. I think a panda is actually an excellent choice. Yeah. They're very cute. And yes, they are bears, and they're dangerous, and they're big.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to pet them, though.
You ever see the video of the guy that got too close to a panda cage in China, and it grabs him and holds him against the bars, and you realize, oh, it's a lot stronger than me.
Yeah, it's not a puppy.
It's not a cute little. They look cute, but they're actually big bears. The one thing that would scare me more than I think a lot of people would, I think the larger primates, so baboons and chimpanzees, when those guys go bad, it's very bad. They're really scary. I would also recommend anybody that wants to. I've told you about Project Nim many times. That's a great documentary on chimpanzees. And I would also say, for me, I would want a bobcat. I just think a bobcat would be really cool. And it's pretty realistic, too. You could have a pet bobcat at home, and it wouldn't take up that much space. It's about the size of like a Labrador. I mean, they're maybe even a little smaller than a Labrador. They're not that big. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll get a pet bobcat one day.
All right, you do that. Let me know how it goes. I'm never coming over.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't bring it to work, please.
We'll make sure it's safe for you, though.
Okay.
Tracy, hey, Buck and producer Mark. Just want to say thank you for showing up every day. I'm trying to stay up on the news, but I get so annoyed seeing all the lies. I've had to steer clear of social media because I get sucked in by ill-informed friends. If I just listen to you guys, it centers my chi. I feel like I know what's going on. Be safe. Keep those shields high. We appreciate you, and you're in my prayers. Well, Tracy, we appreciate you. Thank you so much, and we certainly try to keep things centered and good to go. Mark, can you see how far are you from the Hudson?
I can see swamp. I can't see Hudson.
Can't you see swamp, not Hudson? I'm just wondering if you were able to catch a glimpse, because if you were in Jersey City, for example, you definitely would have been able to see the ship coming up the Hudson. I mean, it was a pretty big to do because there were all the helicopters and the tugboats and stuff around it, so it was a pretty big scene. But swamp is good. Swamp is good too. Christy, hey Buck, thank you and producer Mark for still doing the show every day. You guys are so nice. Thank you. Our city stay-at-home order begins tomorrow through April 16th, but I work in law enforcement, so I still have to head to the office. I am glad to have a job, though, and a change of scenery from my house. My cats are likely tired of me taking video and photos of them. I'm just trying to make them into social media influencers so they can bring some revenue and stop freeloading. Also, I really miss sports. Social distance hugs from North Carolina. Well, Christy, thank you. And yeah, we all miss those distractions. I think that's one of the reasons this is so hard for us all psychologically, is that we don't have those real things to focus our attention on. And it makes me appreciate actually how much sports professional sports are so really useful to people. Yeah, it's entertainment, but even beyond that, as escape and as an emotional focus into something that's positive and that's how would you describe it, producer Mark? I mean, when you're watching a great Rangers game, where does your mind go?
I mean, yeah, it's an escape. But if you remember in New York right after 9/11, the first sporting event after 9/11 was on September 21st, I believe. The Mets played the Braves. Mike Piazza hit a game-winning home run, and that building shook. It made everyone smile for the first time since the towers fell, and it was such an escape for everyone. I think that's the big difference. You were talking about 9/11 before in comparison to this is we don't know when it's going to end. We don't know when we can smile again. That's what sports did back then, and I mean, I just hope sports can come back sometime to make people smile.
Yeah, and by the way, we do have that clip of here is a agreed upon socially distanced cheering from buildings all over New York City for people who are out there on the front lines keeping work going. Can you play that audio? See, producer Mark, I even like the whistling there.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to complain about the whistling. But
no, I even
you
liked
can't.
it.
Yeah.
It was necessary. Yep, that was good whistling.
Was it you?
But that was a very nice moment. It was. I mean, really, if you see the video of it, it's even better because you can tell that there's people in buildings all over a part of New York just cheering for our first responders, cheering for doctors, nurses, people on the front lines of this thing. So it was a moment. You're going to see more of that, which we're going to need too. I mean, keeping morale high right now is very, very important. Sarah. Hey, Buck, I love the trivia about your mom being a professional ballet dancer. I teach at a classical ballet school that I hope will still be in business once this is over. We started live streaming classes this week, which is nothing like the real thing. My hubby and I were supposed to fly to New York City with our son this morning for his senior trip. Now we're wondering if he'll be graduating from high school on time. Hopefully we'll be able to make it to the Big Apple, too. With all the TV show talk, I haven't heard anyone mention Mozart in the Jungle. It's one of my favorites. Love your podcast. I look forward to it every day. Shields high, Sarah in Arizona. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. And I haven't seen Mozart in the Jungle, so sounds good. It takes place in Manhattan. Anything that takes place in a normal New York right now, though, is going to be a little tough for me because it's such a right. This is the hardest it's ever been to be in this city right now. Through all the natural disasters, through 9/11, this is really right now I think is the most. It's the toughest period we've gone through. Jeff, hey, Buck, I really enjoy your podcast and how you systematically tear down the leftist narrative. It is truly disgusting what the media Democrats, they're one and the same, are doing with this crisis. I find it interesting that these same liberal governors say we can't risk one life with this virus while also advocating for, in effect, fourth trimester abortions, fourth being shortly after birth. How about those precious lives? There's no consistency at all. Stuck working from home in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah. I mean, it's first of all, thank you for listening to the podcast. I'm really glad you enjoy it. You get something out of it every day. And as for the not risking one life with the virus, I mean, this feels good for people to say. It's just not true. And I know it's really easy to demagogue this and shout people down, but we as a society take risks all the time that we know will end in risks, right? There's a difference between shoving somebody off a cliff and saying to somebody, all right, you can drive down this road, but some people may skid off the end of this cliff. Do we still want a road here? This is not the same thing. Yeah. Beverly writes, could you please have Toulouse on your lap again during your live broadcast? She's so cute, and thank you for making my day so much better. Well, Beverly, maybe we'll do a Facebook Live with Toulouse, and maybe we can bring her into some of the... If you're not already watching on Pluto TV, channel 248, the first, please do. Pluto TV is a great app for you to have right now. Think of it like you're just adding an entirely new cable TV lineup, but it's free on your phone, and you just click the channels you want. They have a lot of channels. The first is the channel that I'm on with Jesse Kelly, Dana Lash, Mike Slater, and it's just, think of it like we're keeping you company and bringing you up to speed every day, and you can watch video of it, and we're all connected. It's like I'm doing a FaceTime call with every single one of you who's watching on Pluto TV. It's kind of what it looks like, too, but that's because I have to do this from home. People ask me, well, why does your studio look like that? Well, it's because we aren't allowed to be in studios anymore because of the global pandemic. So there are some trade-offs we have to make. And as for Tallulah is a lot of fun, and she's great for live broadcasts, and we'll bring her back into it as soon as we can. She doesn't like to sit for that long. It's just, sometimes she gets a little squirmy, She wants to go and sniff and find like leftover chicken on the floor somewhere. I got to keep my floors really clean because otherwise, if there's any food in the kitchen on the floor, she goes right for it. She's amazing. That little sense of smell is incredible. I got her, I'll tell you this, I got her some doggy steps so that she doesn't have to bother me when she wants to be at the foot of the bed or when she wants to get up on the couch. She likes to do this thing where she whines, and then I come over and pick her up. And she weighs about 32 pounds, I think. So she's a thick, as I said, a full-figured French bulldog. I got her stairs that she can climb up, and I kept doing this thing where I would hold a little piece of chicken at the top of the stairs to see if she'd walk up, and she would immediately run around to the other end of the couch or run around the other end of the bed and jump up like she's Evel Knievel all of a sudden, and she's doing a trick where she's flying over 20 cars or something, jump right up onto the bed, jump right up onto the couch, and take the chicken out of my hand. So she doesn't need the stairs. She won't use the stairs when there's chicken involved, but when there's no chicken, I am the human elevator, and I have to make sure that I pick her up. All right, we got Mary. Good evening, Buck. First time watching you on Pluto TV. Thank you for all you do, but I can't help looking over your shoulder and seeing how high up you are. I don't think I could live that high. Keep up the good work. I enjoy your show. Well, Mary, I'm glad you got to watch it on Pluto TV. Thank you for tuning in. And for everybody else out there listening on Radio World, if you want, you can always check us out on video, too. And yes, my apartment is very high up. I live higher than probably 95% of you have a building where in your town or city that's as high as where I live, I think. That's probably fair to say. Maybe about 5% of you listening, maybe 10% of you listening. I mean, I'm way up. I'm over 40 stories in the air. So that's up there. I don't know how many cities even have that many residential towers over 40 stories, but I'm up in the sky. It's a great view. But it's you don't want to look down too close to the window sometimes. That's for sure. Mike, Buck, neither CBS nor ABC nor NBC aired the task force update today. The CBS Evening News reporter claimed that Trump wouldn't talk to governors of Washington and Michigan unless they appreciated him. That's not what he said. She gave the false impression that he's holding up assistance until they kiss his butt. Now the media can lie and twist around what he says, and we can't hear the important info provided by these updates. Mike, I think it's absurd that they're not running the press conference. They're not letting us see exactly what the president says on those channels. What could be more newsworthy than the press conference? What could be more newsworthy? I ask that question in all honesty. Jerry, hey, Buck, I'm OSS, listening to the podcast. It's good to hear Feisty in the trenches fighting Buck back. I didn't vote for Trump, but listening to Presser Friday, I thought out loud, thank God for Trump. I'm in the trenches with you now, shields high. Well, Jerry, thank you, man. And if I seem like I'm just not as feisty in the fight today, I'm a little. Yesterday it felt like a setback with the extension of the quarantine measures here for a month, but I'll be back in action tomorrow. I'll be back in action doing all that stuff, so it'll be good for sure. So yeah, we'll see. Let's see what we got here. Next up. Karen, please don't try to cut your own hair. I'm 99% sure you will be sorry. If you can't find a hat big enough, tell us your head circumference, and I bet someone on Team Buck could knit you a hat. Or you could wear a scarf pirate style or a turban. What do we... Really? I can't cut my own hair? I trimmed the beard down a little bit because the beard was getting really... It was starting to look like...
all of these ideas.
Tom Hanks and Castaway. Here we go. Knit you a hat or a scarf. What do you think?
I like the turban idea.
I could definitely do a knit hat if somebody has a great idea for that says Team Buck on it.
But you're just going to wear a hat indoors? Or just when you're on the show?
I guess. I don't know.
All right.
So yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. Fiona. That sounds like Trump. We'll see. We're looking at it. We'll see with Buck's hair. We'll see. I love your show. I regularly listen to the podcast. I'm listening to your 327 show now. You spoke very unfavorably of the actions of Representative Massey of Kentucky, made the statement, You don't lecture someone on the Constitution when their house is burning down. I respectfully disagree. Our Constitution is necessary to give guidance and provide guardrails, especially in times of crisis. Well, yeah, but it wasn't a constitutional issue. So that's actually a bad example that I used. It was a legislative issue that had to do with too much spending. It wasn't like they were rounding people up and putting them in camps. So, Fiona, I just have to say that it wasn't enough of an emergency to justify what Massey was saying he was going to do, which is why he didn't do it and he backed down. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. We will be better, stronger in the future. Today, we fight. We stay together. Shields high.